Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's show. And if you're joining for the first time, this is part of our industry series for which we meet every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. And we pick one vendor or the solution that we review independently. And for today, we have a very exciting but not so well known solution that we are going to be reviewing. It's called SAP Business by Design. We are going to have a lot of fun. Before we do that, we are going to start with everybody's intros. I am going to start with my intro. I am Sam Gupta. I am principal at Elevate IQ. Elevate IQ is the independent ERP and digital transformation consulting firm. I've been in the ERP space for roughly 20 years and have seen it all when it comes to most ERP systems out there. And SAP Business by Design has been a key player overall in the space. On that note, I am going to move to Dave for his intro.
Thanks, Sam. Hi, everybody. My name's Dave Crysler, and I own an operations consulting company working with leaders in the manufacturing space to help them systemize their business and achieve operational excellence. And I come to you today with more than 20 years in manufacturing operations with P&L responsibility for several different facilities and some ERP implementations along the way. So excited to be here. Thanks, Sam.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Dave. Andy, can I ask you to introduce yourself next?
Absolutely. My name is Andy Pratico. I've been involved in ERP software for manufacturers, small to mid-sized manufacturers mostly, for 4 decades, which is a long time. I've worked all over North America. I've worked with over 1,000 manufacturers in my career. And I've also published a book on how to select ERP software. So hopefully that'll help a few folks out there. Thank you very much, Sam.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Andy. Sneha, can I ask you to introduce yourself next?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Sam. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I am a supply chain leader with about 10 plus years working in supply chain. So when I say supply chain, that's a lot of stuff. So procurement to demand planning to inventory management to warehouse management, reverse logistics, and all of that good stuff in manufacturing and home automation industries. And ERPs has been a part of my journey all these years. And have been part in module implementations and some of the ERP implementations. So definitely looking forward to this one and learning from the experts here. Thank you for having me.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Sneha. And before we start the briefing, if you guys are in the audience and joining for the first time, make sure you guys comment and send your questions. Typically, we try to cover during the show. Our panelists are going to be looking at your questions. And if we cannot get to them during the show, we'll make sure that you get your answers after the show. On that note, I am going to start with our briefing for today. So when I said, SAP Business by Design is not well known, that is a fact. Okay, it is really not well known. Okay, even inside the SAP ecosystem, if you ask anybody, they will not be able to tell you which of this product is. And even if they might know about the product, they might not position it as one of the potential solutions, because in the SAP ecosystem as well, there is a little fear whether this product is going to survive or not. So we are going to look at all of the factors where the product is, number of installations, and whether SAP is committed. We are going to be looking at the roadmap as well. By the way, if you look at the product, this is one of the most mature cloud product SAP has had. Okay, especially if you look at the complete product from the operational perspective. Obviously, SAP is very strong from the finance perspective. SAP is really designed from that CFO perspective. And I don't know a solution that is going to be as strong from the finance perspective, especially if you have the SOX compliance needs, or if you are a public company and you really need to hammer down your finance for the public company. That's where SAP really shines. That's where you are going to have a lot of different feature sets, and we are going to review all of that. But SAP traditionally was a very on-prem company. Even if you look at the number of workloads today, I don't know how many are really transferred to cloud. Obviously, there has been a little hesitation in terms of moving to cloud, SAP is growing aggressively. We saw that when we reviewed SAP. Cloud footprint, when I say growing aggressively, meaning their cloud footprint is growing very aggressively as well. But overall, if you look at their workloads, they are going to be far larger overall. So it does take time in getting those workloads moved to the cloud. If you compare the cloud maturity of 3 different products that they have, so obviously the flagship product is going to be SAP S/4HANA, the second product, which is SAP Business ByDesign, and the third product is SAP BusinessOne. SAP S/4HANA is always gets the most attention because obviously that's the flagship product and that's the biggest one. And most of the Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies are probably going to have that, because when you get into that enterprise space, there are not many solutions out there that can really perform at that scale. Now, SAP BusinessOne is very well penetrated product as well. Okay, they have much bigger ecosystem overall for that product. For some reason, SAP Business ByDesign never picked that traction, primarily because number one, it was cloud, and SAP resellers. SAP is primarily sold through reseller community. They were never sort of comfortable with cloud. I don't know if they are comfortable as of today. And that's probably the reason why SAP struggled a little bit overall in terms of its cloud journey. And that could be one of the reasons why SAP Business ByDesign did not get as much attention as some of the other products. But overall, from the product perspective, one of the things that we have noticed when we reviewed SAP, that SAP products are one of the, when I say they are designed really well from the product architecture perspective, because it's actually done in one piece. You are not going to feel very patchy architecture. Let's say if you review product like NetSuite, or if you review some of the other products that actually grew through acquisition, they will feel very patchy when you move from screen to screen. That is something you are not going to see when you are going to review any of the SAP products, and SAP Business ByDesign is not an exception. Typically, SAP Business ByDesign is positioned for companies that are not going to be too small, but they are not going to be too large as well. So their positioning is somewhere $30-ish million and then up to $250-ish million. It is very well localized and globalized in a lot of different countries. So you are going to see that very rich multi-entity functionality built as part of SAP Business ByDesign. But when you look at the product, it does not have as much operational functionality, and that is always a challenge with most SAP products, because they are very rich from the finance perspective, but they are not as operationally rich when you are going to get into the nitty-gritty of the, let's say, if you are talking about manufacturing business, okay, then you would require tons and tons of add-ons before this product can work for those businesses. Now, I don't know if I covered everything that we typically cover from the briefing perspective. Dave, Andy, Sneha, any comments?
Just a quick comment. You were mentioning how the SAP S/4HANA is their flagship, and the SAP BusinessOne is very, very popular for the smaller companies. You're right. I rarely hear about Business ByDesign. I actually competed against them about 10 years ago in Edmonton, and I know the company bought that package, but they were more project management than they were manufacturing, so that makes sense. But then again, there's another company here in British Columbia called Dynamic Attraction. They manufacture roller coasters. And again, that's very project oriented, but they went with the Infor product. So those are about the only 2 times that I've really ran across Business ByDesign, probably in the last 20 years.
Yeah, I am going to have to agree with that assessment. And the reason for that is because most of the SAP partners, they like to position SAP S/4HANA, even if they might have SAP Business ByDesign in their bag, even reps, because for them, it's going to be much higher license dollars. So they don't really like to position SAP Business ByDesign as the potential product, even if it means the product may be super overwhelming for a lot of businesses. When they might not be ready for SAP S/4HANA, they will still not pitch SAP Business by Design. So that's the problem actually in the SAP ecosystem.
I think SAP Business by Design really was the first web-enabled ERP or SaaS, sold. It's amazing how early it was in the offered, and how little traction it's gotten actually.
Exactly. If you look at the operational maturity of the product, to be honest, even today, I would say overall cloud footprint, I'm not talking about on-prem, okay? Even if you look at S/4HANA as well as SAP BusinessOne, SAP BusinessOne Cloud really does not have much, to be honest, okay? It's really very lean. The reason why SAP BusinessOne got so much traction is because all of these companies have very thick IP built on top of that, and they are trying to sell their product, and SAP is hardly gaining anything out of it. Okay, that's why they are incentivized to sell SAP BusinessOne far more than any other product, because that's how they make money. So they are really, really incentivized to do that. SAP Business by Design, it was always slightly harder development. And in the SAP ecosystem, you didn't really have that architectural maturity. And the partners felt that, you know what, it's just too constraining for me to be able to develop on top of SAP Business by Design, because now SAP wants everybody to follow those architectural guidelines. So they cannot really do a lot of things that they could do in case of SAP BusinessOne. So some of the things that partners are known to do in the SAP BusinessOne space is they will develop their add-on, and there was sort of the device license, that they could utilize to be able to communicate with SAP BusinessOne. So companies didn't need to buy as many licenses as they would, let's say, if you did the named license, right? So again, it was very, very, very driven by partners, right? So that's why SAP BusinessOne got so much traction, because it always had very, very, very thick IP overall, that was available in the market, and every partner was really incentivized to sell that, and SAP did not really have control on their own channel, to be honest. Dave, Sneha? Okay, if not, I am going to move to these slides. So here, if you look at the overall, UI, you will feel that this is really the cloud native product, and it really is cloud native product, and it is designed, for the cloud native architecture. And you are going to get similar feel as you are going to review either Plex or Acumatica. Those products really feel, or in fact, QAD. To be honest, I got very good feel. IFS is another one. If you look at those products, you get really, really rich feel of the cloud native architecture. So as you can see, the menu structure is very organized. And one of the things that SAP Business by Design, they could do is the whole analytics piece that is very strong. Now you can probably find this in other products as well, such as Acumatica. But to be able to do this kind of analytics, you really require that database firepower. And some people feel that, HANA is meaningless. It's just a marketing hype. It's not as powerful as claimed by SAP. But if you look at the kind of competition that SAP Business by Design can do, it's primarily because of, that HANA power. If you're doing the similar competition, at least in our experience, when we do in other products, they feel really sluggish and slow. For example, let's say if I do the same thing in Business Central, Business Central has similar cloud native look and feel, but queries such as these feel really slow, even though, again, it's running on Microsoft, and you would think that Microsoft is probably going to have similar capabilities overall from database footprint perspective, but the product overall feels very slow in general when you try to use that. So here, this is the same pivot table that you are probably going to find in case of Acumatica. So this is not really differentiated, to be honest. A lot of companies can do that. But here, the way you can really analyze and do the pivot table, include different objects, that definitely, is going to be useful for a lot of companies that are really strong in those financial processes. Now, this is something that you are not going to find in any other systems, and which is called the whole audit trail, the way your transaction is going to move from your sales order to purchase order to outbound delivery to customer invoice. This is available at every single business object. And again, this is very specific to SAP. And the reason why other systems or companies cannot do this is because, again, you require far deeper firepower overall from the database perspective. And unless you have the power of HANA, doing this is extremely, extremely hard. And by the way, not only you have the whole audit trail, and by the way, this is a very simple scenario. You could have extremely, extremely complex scenario, and the whole audit trail is going to be right there at your fingertips, meaning an order can go through several different corrections and then reconciliation, then returns. It may split in 10 different lines or orders or whatever. So all of those changes are going to be at one place. And when you are working in a very complex finance organization, you require the traceability at your fingertips. Otherwise, your lead times are going to increase, whether you talk about cash collection, whether you talk about customer service. So I personally am a big fan of the whole audit trail. I have not seen this audit trail in any other system so far that I have seen. Sure, they are going to claim that they have a little bit, but it's never as natural as what I have personally seen in the SAP products. The other things that is really unique is the physical invoice or the physical document. So when you are going to have physical document, it's really the click of a button. The way it renders, it feels very natural if you look at their videos on YouTube. Okay, other companies, they are going to have, let's say, if they are doing either the Crysler report or some other proprietary report format that they are trying to render, it almost takes a minute. Okay, you will see a spinner when your report is going to be rendered. But in case of SAP, again, everything is at one place, and your physical documents are going to be right there as well. And that speed, again, maybe it's because of HANA, but you are going to feel that only in case of SAP products. And this is the invoice that is part of the same workflow that you are going to see. So again, what I personally like about this one is going to be the speed with which you can really render these documents, and you can find at one place that is very hard in other systems.
This whole flow, Sam, sorry to interrupt, was so useful. And specifically, being in manufacturing, say if we add some last minute changes to our BOM or some ECR changes, and if I am able to track on what happened, that traceability is so important. And if it, this layout of seeing it seamlessly, right, all of this docked in one screen is amazing user experience that one can have.
Exactly. And by the way, this experience is going to start from your CRM until your finance. So this is end to end. It's not just the manufacturing and production.
Yeah.
A lot of systems might be able to do just the production just because that's easier. But here you're talking about end to end workflow.
Exactly. And exactly why it's so important to tie the ends.
Yeah. Okay. So here, now look at the complexity of the financial workflow and the way the finance workflow is structured. I mean, if you review any other ERP systems, they are probably not going to have all of this. And a lot of you are going to wonder, do companies really need this? Okay, they do. Okay. When you talk about the sophisticated financial organization, okay, if you're talking about $10 million company that is not really they don't really have the audit process or the structured finance process, they are probably not going to need this. But when you are talking about the global company that is going to have very deep financial processes, they are going to have, and by the way, if you need to comply with GDPR, SOX compliance, so depending upon how many different regulatory compliance you have, you might have all of those approval processes and these steps, and that's where things get really tricky. Doing this in other systems is extremely difficult. So here what we are looking at is really the period end closing, and you can look at the number of steps and the number of people involved in closing that. You can literally have the due date. It almost feels as if this is the WBS for finance, to be honest. You are not going to have this kind of structured workflow. And by the way, the SAP is going to have one of the most natural security in my mind. And when I say security, I am not talking about IT security. I am talking about financial control and financial security. That's very different overall. How you organize your users, how you organize your rules, how you design your approval workflow, who's going to see what and who's going to do what. Typically, in a lot of different technical systems, it's really, really hard to do this. But when you have a business system designed for business workflows, this is going to feel very natural, especially for CFOs. And that's why CFOs typically love SAP. Okay. Now, this is another unique feature of most SAP products that I have personally not seen in the other ERP systems. And I find it fascinating. And the reason why I find it fascinating is because when you are going to go to any ERP implementation and you are going to ask them, okay, give me some documentation about what happened here. And here's what you get. You get nothing. Okay, because nobody knows what happened with the ERP implementation, and you don't know which currency you configured, how many sites you have, how many warehouses you have. So you need to literally go to your ERP system and figure these things out. Sometimes you get the answer, sometimes you don't get the answers. So documentation of the configuration data is far more meaningful when you are running a financially controlled organization, because when you have really big organization, it's very hard to find these answers. Nobody knows who has these answers. Okay, so SAP, one of the things that they really do well is going to be the configuration is actually built as part of the product. And when you complete your configuration, it's almost like that TurboTax field where you are going to answer 1,000 questions, and then it is actually going to give you a lot of functionality, designed for your own needs, the way whatever you are looking for. And finally, it is actually going to produce the executive summary that you can send to all of the executives that, okay, this is what I have configured. Okay, are you okay with this? Now, that piece of functionality and the collaboration during the implementation phase is extremely difficult. And after that, when you have to maintain, it's just a nightmare unless you have some sort of change control process inside your organization. So I am personally a big fan of this feature inside SAP system. Here you are going to have all of the questions, you are going to have all of the documentation that you are looking for, and finally, this is a true multi-entity functionality where if you incorporate any country, you get all of the legislation and the tax rules that you are going to need for that specific country. A lot of systems claim that, I am multi-entity, I'm multi-tenant, but they don't really understand what multi-entity and multi-tenant really means. Here, we are really talking about incorporating the legislation of those countries, and that's where SAP systems are really good. They are not going to be as strong operationally. If you are looking for deep down scheduling functionality, deep down, they probably might not have that, because again, it's designed for that global experience. When you are running a very large company, you need all of that. Okay. So here is the the sort of the documentation that you get, and this is the executive summary once you complete your configuration that you can send out to your executives. And again, this process is very manual in general with a lot of different ERP implementations, and sometimes it just could be all over the place, and this may not exist after the implementation. So I personally like this being built as part of the product. I have not seen this anywhere else with any other products. Okay, now this is where the other differentiator is. So obviously, you are not going to find the real deep down manufacturing in this particular case. But what you are going to find is going to be, let's say, if you are a project-centric organization or the service-centric organization, and a lot of systems claim that they have the work breakdown structure, they have the project manufacturing functionality, but they don't really have the operational aspect of the work breakdown structure. So they will have a lot of things from WBS perspective, just from tracking the cost codes, the job codes. So project is really the wrapper overall. When you look at the way the workflow is set up in those ERP systems, it's not going to have the operational aspect of the work breakdown structure meaning you will not be able to schedule your resources. You can do the costing, you can do the analysis, you can do the reporting, but a lot of those systems don't really incorporate the real Microsoft project. The way I like to see things is, okay, if I am a project-driven organization, and if I am the project manager, I literally need my Microsoft project inside my ERP. If I don't have that, and I am a project-based organization, I cannot do my job. And by the way, for those professional services-centric organization, one of the biggest thing is always going to be the project management, because they are a very project-driven organization. For example, let's say if you look at distribution, for distribution companies, warehouse is going to be the critical success factor. If you cannot figure out warehouse, then the ERP is probably not going to work. Okay, for manufacturing, it's always going to be your bombs. It's always going to be your production floor. If you cannot figure that out, then obviously it's not going to work for manufacturing. In this particular case, the critical success factor for the service-centric organization and the project-driven organization, it's going to be that project management, how strong that piece is. And that's where Business by Design really shines. I can take some comments. I'll move to the next one.
I was just going to say, I think what you're alluding to, Sam, is the fact that it's got everything that's needed, including project management scheduling, which is very rare in most ERP systems.
Exactly, unless it is designed for that. So every ERP system is designed from a specific perspective. In this particular case, SAP Business by Design is really designed for those project-centric professional services organization. It has all the bells and whistles that these organizations are going to need. It's not going to have the bells and whistles that manufacturing organizations are going to need. For example, I don't know if they incorporated the things such as the outside manufacturing. Business by Design didn't used to have that because it's not really a manufacturing system. So it used to struggle with a lot of those things. And if you need to do that, you need to have the add-ons. Sales comp was really basic. So again, because the professional services organization don't really require that. And typically, every ERP system is designed from a specific perspective, and they typically grow wherever they win most. That's how most systems grow and the most companies grow. So in this particular case, SAP Business by Design really wins in those project-centric organizations. And that's why it is really strong there. And that's probably the reason why it is also strong with the other organizations that are going to be very professional services-centric. For example, not-for-profit. Not-for-profit requires very deep project management. They require a little bit of your not-for-profit functionality as well. That is going to be your fund accounting, the grant management, all of that. But on top of that, you require very strong financials. You require very strong project management, because you are going to be running a lot of different programs. So that's where Business by Design also shines in those patches. Here, if you look at the operational aspect, and again, I am trying to emphasize on the operational aspect of the project management. Here, you literally can establish your milestones, and that's a big deal, guys. Again, if you look at some of the project-based manufacturing system, every system out there is going to claim, hey, you know what? I am designed for hybrid manufacturing. I can do my, make to order, make to stock. I can do engineer to order, and I can do project-based manufacturing. They don't really understand how the WSS work, to be honest, for a very project-driven organization. And this is how the project-driven functionality looks like when you are a project-driven organization. And that's where Business by Design is really, really strong.
I literally just wrote that comment, Sam, what you just said, like project-based manufacturing companies will definitely appreciate this. Like literally seconds before you mentioned that, yes.
Amazing. So the other thing that Andy is going to appreciate now is going to be something similar that we have been arguing a lot about. And I don't know if this is close to Andy's expectation. It's very hard to please Andy. But hopefully today he's going to be pleased. So we are talking about the text items. And text items, when we are looking at, these are the items that are going to be one of the steps in the operations. They carry through the operations. and then they are also going to be sort of the items that are not going to have the part number. But I don't know if this is the same functionality that you can see with the other engineer to order systems. And Dave, do you want to lead for a second? I think I'm running into battery issues and I need to fix that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no problem, Sam.
Andy, do you have any comments there?
Do I have any comments about what, Sam?
About the...
I think we might have lost him, Andy. I'm not sure if Sam was going down the path of the as it says in the highlight, the information being passed that's maybe non-inventoried components, passing that information out to the shop floor.
Yeah, I think it's a lot deeper than that. I mean, most manufacturing centric ERP systems, especially customer engineered order, are going to be able to do something like that. But Sam, could you extrapolate what it is you're specifically mentioning here?
Yeah, so I am talking about the we have been debating overall about the bombs that are going to have the parts that are not going to have part number. For example, let's say if you talk about Infor Visual, Infor Visual has legs, and legs are going to be part of your scheduling. It's not going to have your part number, and Infor Visual community in general, they appreciate that piece of functionality a lot. In my personal experience, I have seen patches where that is probably going to be useful for the engineer to order businesses. But then we have the text items. So I don't know if the text items are going to be similar to what we have in those manufacturing verticals.
What does text items mean, Sam?
So here, as you might be able to read in this particular case, what you can do is you are not going to require a part number, and you can literally check an option as this is a text item, so you don't have to require the part number. Okay, and that actually blows through your BOM, that goes through your operation. So, everywhere that is going to be available. In my mind, I think this is a similar functionality that a lot of people, talk about, that I don't want to create my parts, and I want to still have BOM, and I should not be creating 10,000 different inventory items if I don't carry them, if I don't stock them, and I am simply trying to estimate. I am simply trying to schedule. So I should be able to do this without my part number. And in my mind, I think they have introduced the text items, which should be similar to what you typically talk about.
Yeah, it sounds like the Business by Design has taken that. I'm not so sure about the ETO part, but the project management piece all the way through.
Okay, so I would definitely like to hear a lot more comments about, where do you see struggle with the engineer to order? If there are going to be any challenges, I'm more than happy to hear those.
I will when I come across them.
Okay, amazing. All right, so here, basically the text-based items, here they are trying to position it as, let's say this is just a safety check. I don't know why you would do the safety check as part of this one, or let's say if you need to add a certificate as part of your, manufacturing process, that typically goes through your quality process. So I don't know why you would do that. In my mind, when I look at the text-based items, the only place where I would see this being applicable is going to be when you don't want to create parts just because you don't carry them in the inventory. That is the only time I would see the real use of this one. The other things, such as your quality or the safety, must go through your the processes that you have built as part of your ERP system, unless you don't have quality. In the case of Business by Design definitely has quality, very strong quality component.
Well, this is pointing out that, such as adding a certificate or ensuring transportation safety, like hazmat or something like that, wouldn't those just be attachments to the inventory file, inventory master?
Yeah,
or
but
work order or the production flow master?
So typically, if you have any sort of user action as part of that, meaning you want their confirmation about a specific process step, then you have to have that as a step. The attachment, you cannot really have the compliance, as part of your attachment. So attachment can go as the instructions. But let's say if you want to get the confirmation whether users have really read it and they complied with it, and that is something very hard to do unless that process is built as part of your workflow.
I am thinking like what you both were mentioning a little before, like some kind of certificates or even release notes that are really not part of the bill of materials. If that's something that we want to add, or probably just keep note of that, hey, this was added as part of this sales order and isn't necessarily part of what we do for all the orders. Maybe this could be used for something like that.
Yeah, very possible. Sneak.
Yeah, interesting, guys. So if you don't have any other comments, I'm actually going to move to the next one. So here, this is how your text items are going to move through your production process. And these are, this is, as you can see, this is the execution model. And the way execution model works is, this is going to be your sort of the production order that is going to be the result of your BOM that you are trying to release to your production floor. And here you are going to have all of those steps, and then your text-based items are actually going to blow through your operation. So it's actually going to be embedded as part of your BOM, as opposed to having just an attachment as part of your either material or the operation. Obviously, you can do all of that as well, but this is actually, it's really your process step, the way it is structured as part of your BOM.
I could see some issues on that from an inventory control perspective with how easy it is to add those as text items.
Exactly. That would be my concern as well. That let's say if you have a real inventory and you may have that in your inventory, but then since you have the flexibility, you can literally add something and then the cost is not going to be same. So I can definitely relate with that because this is very loose. And this is why I personally don't like to have something without the part number. That's why you should always have the part number, even if you are going to be, very engineer to order organization. But I can see why companies don't like to do that, just because sometimes it's just too much admin effort for them.
Go ahead, Dave.
Oh, no, go ahead, Sneha.
No, I'm just adding to that comment that I've run into so many issues when I have some indirect items. So maybe some repair parts are added just as notes, and we do not have a part number, and then no one is tracking the order of that, and then eventually like all that inventory issues happen for just something as small as a piece of box, a cardboard item, or even like the fillers that you need for packaging. Something as small as that could actually run into issues and us not being able to send our sales order on time.
With a repair order, wouldn't you have like a repair job or something like that, Sneha?
We would, but for example, if there are some accessories, repairs, say a repair kit that we want to send, and there is no part number attached to that, because every repair kit could have different kind of nuts, bolts, requirements in it. There could be notes added randomly during the order and then shipped out, and we have no track what happened.
Okay. So the tracking, I completely understand. When I ever make a mention about part numbers in an ETO environment, I'm not suggesting there's no way to track the work or track the projects or track the jobs. You just don't have to track them through a part number. That's all. You can track by the job number, the work order, the customer, pretty much any field in the system. It's just, part numbers in your respect for a repair order, normally you would track it with the repair order number, right? But in your case, it didn't have one.
It didn't have one. Yes.
Yeah.
We have run into issues for that.
Okay, guys. So we are going to cover the comment from the audience, and I think Ray is asking if I can read the name right here. He's asking, okay, what is the difference between Workday and SAP Business ByDesign in a project-centric business? So when you look at Workday, number one, Workday is a very enterprise product, meaning it is designed for very, very, very large organizations. And when I say very large organization, meaning you should be probably operating in 10 countries, meaning you should be Fortune 1000 organization. That's how big the organization is, meaning you are probably going to be $1 billion plus in revenue. If you are using Workday for organizations that are going to be smaller than this, it might feel a little overkill depending upon how strong your HCM processes are, how sophisticated you are in your HCM department. Now, Workday is not really an ERP to date, meaning it's not really, it was never designed to be an ERP. It's more of the human capital management solution, and they have grown their finance functionality as well, but it does not have the bells and whistles that you are going to find in an ERP. Now, if you compare that with Business ByDesign, Business ByDesign is an ERP. It's going to be super poor in those HCM capabilities, even though they might claim that they have a lot of HR capabilities, but those are super basic. It's not designed to be your HCM system. So both of these systems, let's say if you are using both, they are probably going to be complementary, and you need both if you are strong in both of the departments. You will be running your finance, operations, your CRM, sales, if you are using Business ByDesign for that, and your HR is going to be running probably in Workday, and then they are going to be integrated most likely through GLs. So that's how they both compare. But Business ByDesign, if you are using Workday, most likely you should be on SAP S4HANA. I don't know why you would be on SAP Business ByDesign, because the size of the product matters as well. I don't know if anybody else has any other comments there. Okay, I'm actually going to move to the next one here. So this is the production request, and in this particular case as well, you are going to see all of those text items that are blowing through your production model, and which is again, it's part of the entire BOM. So you can have that. I completely agree with you guys that when you let it loose, you are going to have a lot of issues. But a lot of companies request this, so it's not that you have to use it. I would be careful in using the text-based items, but the system is offering you the flexibility for the businesses that just don't want that admin effort in creating the part numbers. But I would definitely question the rationale why you are not creating, unless you require 1 million parts and you just don't have a way to create those inventory. And by the way, nowadays the way systems are designed, they are going to have really easy way of creating the parts. So creating the part should not be as difficult in general. Again, I don't see a reason, but there might be businesses where that could be applicable. Okay, so now let's look at the roadmap overall. And a lot of people think that SAP Business ByDesign does not really have the commitment from SAP. So this is the roadmap that is coming from somewhere in 2022, and this is what they are working on right now. This is just to give understand the perspective where they are headed overall from the product direction perspective. So if you notice the kind of functionality that you are going to feel here, everything is going to be very deep into finance. Okay, that's what they are focusing, because it's a very strong financial product. And if you look at the kind of piece of functionality, we have not seen this anywhere else. For example, let's say you look at Japan. Now you are going to say that I can support Japan, but in Japan as well, when you are complying with the regulations of that country, then you are going to have very specific, nuanced financial functionality that you are probably going to require. And what most companies do is, when they are going to be present in 10 countries, they are probably going to be in 10 different ERP systems. That's how they like to operate. So there is not going to be any sort of integration. Even in very large companies, they typically are going to be in very different ERP systems. So obviously you don't have that centralized control, you don't have that centralized visibility, and that is something you will get from SAP. And again, if you're not as integrated, then probably you don't have to worry about it. But you are going to see very deep financial functionality where you can host all of your countries in one database without requiring the other product. And that's where this whole multi-legislation functionality really shines. Now, SAP Business ByDesign is not the largest product overall. When we look at the country footprint, I think they are probably present in 20 or maybe 30 countries. I don't remember the exact number, but that will feel lower when you are going to compare this with, let's say, Infor LN, Infor M3, some of the other products such as maybe Microsoft Business Central probably is localized and globalized in similar countries. It's probably going to feel lower than Odoo. Can you believe this? Okay, but Odoo is not going to have all of those legislation bells and whistles that SAP is going to have for the public-centric organization, for the financially driven organization that are going to be really mature in their financial processes. So that's where the SAP Business ByDesign is really strong. And if you look at the functionality, everything is very finance related. If you look at some of the countries here, they are saying in Australia they require payment times reporting scheme, which is very strange and unique to that country. Here, then we are talking about in China, they have the direct cash flow statement. Cash flow statement shows the changes in cash specific period. Seems like slightly different, I guess, overall from the way you would analyze cash flow here. And that's why they probably have that. Then for India, you have dynamic QR code creation for B2C invoices. Now that's a process that, a lot of countries are very advanced overall in their finance processes. They all are using QR code already. Okay, North America may not be as ahead. So you need all of that for those countries. What else am I missing here? There are some finance compliance issues when you, let's say, are utilizing your electrical cores, and there might be some financial benefit there in terms of the reporting, and that's why you have that financial process. Now, you are not going to find all of this. Typically, this is going to be your manual process that you have to do, and you have to create that manual report, or it is going to be a custom report. And again, depending upon how sophisticated you are in your financial process and what kind of data do you need to be able to support those processes, that's where SAP really shines. Now, if you actually look at the other slide, and this is the partner add-ons. So the way SAP likes to position these products is most of the operational functionality, even the basic one, that is built by partners. Okay, that's going to be a shock for you. So some of these things are really basic. Okay, you are going to find in systems such as Global Shop, or and then people are going to be comparing. Okay, my Global Shop has so much functionality. SAP does not have that. So how does that work? So obviously, these products, when they are designed for just one site, one entity, they are going to be operationally very strong. They are going to have very deep operational functionality, but they are not really designed for those global organizations. So here, things like customer and vendor portal, that pretty much every single ERP has, but SAP does not have that. That is provided by your partners because, again, SAP is providing you the core financial backbone, financial control, and then they want either partners to build the operational add-on, or you need to do it yourself, and which could be a risk. Let's say if you are just one site company and you don't really require the global bells and whistles, and you are buying an ERP just to run your plant, probably this is not a right fit. This is where you need to assess where your process maturity is, whether you are stronger in your finance department or are you really strong in your operational department, and you are just single site and you don't really need all of that finance bells and whistles. Then SAP is probably not a right fit. Even these smaller products. So even if you talk about SAP BusinessOne or SAP Business ByDesign, they don't have the depth in the operational functionality. And that's a challenge for a lot of people. And they think that if you go to SAP, they are going to get everything. No, you are not going to get everything, because SAP is designed from very different perspective. It is designed from that global financially controlled organization. You are going to get very rich finance functionality, but you are not going to get as much operational functionality that your manufacturing, distribution, retail organizations are going to require. Here, some of the things such as, and they have the localization, and typically this is the trend that you are going to see with the other ERP system. For example, the countries that are not going to be as popular, Sri Lanka, they have the localization built by a partner. If you go to Microsoft is probably going to do the same. They are going to be providing the localization maybe in 35 countries, 36 countries, as part of your Microsoft F&O, and the other countries are going to be supported by the partners. Things such as equipment rental, quality inspection, that is provided by the partners, because the quality that is going to be provided out of the box, that is typically not enough for your manufacturing organization. You have things such as rental, bank reconciliation. You have project manufacturing. Can you believe this? By in-cloud solutions, because you have very deep project management functionality, but you are probably going to struggle with the manufacturing aspect, because when you get into the depth of manufacturing, it does not really have that. So depending upon what kind of organization are you very strong in the project management, or are you very strong in manufacturing? That's where you need to assess, okay, what is your critical success factor? If you are a very deep manufacturing organization, that's not the right product. If you are a very strong project management organization, this is a perfect product. Okay, now we are talking about sales price calculation. Then we have Shopify integration. That is very common. Some of the ERP systems are going to offer this out of the box, but SAP, definitely you are not going to get WMS. That's not going to be provided out of the box. You are probably going to be using the add-on. Now, a lot of people wonder how large is the footprint for, excuse me, SAP Business ByDesign. And if you look at the number of installations for SAP Business ByDesign, as of 2021, they are claiming roughly 11 to 12,000, companies with unique tax ID. And they are being very clear here, companies with unique tax ID. Even this could mean a lot of different things. And typically the way companies report is, sometimes they are reporting entities, sometimes they are reporting the actual company, sometimes they are reporting just the number of users. Even for the smaller companies, we have seen that they say that I have 8,000 customers. What they really mean is I have 8,000 users. So you need to be really careful when they say what that customer means. So just by looking at the number does not mean a lot. But here they are saying companies with unique tax ID, most likely these are going to be entities. So let's say if you have 5 different entities in 5 different companies, that is probably counted as the unique tax ID, because they all are going to have unique tax ID there. But again, if you look at purely by number, this probably has the larger footprint than your Acumatica. Acumatica is probably roughly around that. It's definitely smaller than NetSuite. So that's your comparison right there. That product is very well penetrated. It's just not as well known because it's part of a very large organization where it does not get as much attention. Okay, just go ahead.
I was just going to say, Sam, I think one of the staggering facts on there, at least it kind of threw me for a loop, was the software solution partners with 8,933 add-on solutions. I mean, if that isn't confusing in terms of being able to keep up on, what add-ons may need to be included in your implementation and also maintained.
So the challenge with SAP is, and honestly speaking, SAP is probably not going to have as big a marketplace as you are going to find this with Microsoft or NetSuite, to be honest. And the reason why they are trying to position their number is because now they have to compete with companies like Microsoft and NetSuite, which have far bigger marketplaces. And obviously, you are right that it could get very confusing. Okay, how to patch all of these add-ons together and how are they going to work with each other? It's extremely, extremely, extremely confusing. So I don't know why there is a race for these add-ons. They typically cause a lot more trouble than they help. But sure, I mean, that does speak something that, okay, when you need some options, let's say if you are already on the product and now you are looking for added functionality, you can at least get that. So add-ons are not always bad. They have a place, but they should not be driver for your ERP selection.
What does the top right mean, Sam? This chart where it starts with FinDoc or financial documents at 1.18 and goes down to time recording at 106 million. What does that represent?
So these are going to be, financial documents is going to be your AR, AP invoices. Sales orders are going to be number of sales orders. So they are trying to position how much they are processing as of today. So that speaks for something in terms of how large these customers are, what volume are they pulling. And that's what they are trying to show, that their growth is roughly 33% for the financial document. For sales orders, they have 20% growth. 50 million sales orders is a big deal. If you look at the average order value of those sales orders, let's say $1,000, that's a big number right there. then we have the 40% growth in number of projects, 2.64 million projects, which is a big deal. So it's definitely, the size is big overall. It might not have as large number in terms of the customers, but the number of customers that are going to be utilizing these products are going to be far bigger in general. Okay, so I am going to open up for the commentary now for you guys.
I was just going to say, Sam, to the previous slide about add-ons, like add-ons are not always very bad, and it can actually help you customize, especially in the cases when you said that, if I have something as big as SAP implemented, and it's not easy to switch from what you have had to next. So add-ons can definitely help there, but 8,000, and actually the number is even more, I think, in tens of thousands for Microsoft, where it can get very, very confusing on what exactly is suitable for me. And they definitely need help. Especially the companies might need help to know which ones make the most sense for them.
I think the
and
challenge.
Sorry, Dave. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to add to that, Sneha. I mean, from my perspective, the challenge with it really is, to your earlier point about, you can't just switch your system if you need some additional functionality, but you also have that same problem if you implement one of those add-ons and it's not been well maintained, or, you find that functionality works perfect, and then all of a sudden it comes out of date with the next release and it's not being updated. So my point is you can get yourself into the same type of, bad situation when you're patching and having to rely on those. So,
Absolutely. And customer service becomes the biggest pain point there.
yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally. That's what I was going to mention, is that it depends on the partner you're dealing with and if they have experience with those add-ons, because if they don't, then you're reliant on somebody else, and then you're up open to the finger pointing and all that thing. But I'll tell you, the thing that I really dislike about add-ons the most, and maybe it's because I've been in the business for so long, but these are independent companies that develop these, and they are possible up for sale. And if that add-on is purchased by a competing product, it won't integrate with what you have anymore. And I've seen that happen. So there's obviously pros with add-ons, but there is cons that you have to be aware of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the only other thing that I would add, just I wasn't familiar with this solution either. So when I was taking a look at both the deck and the resources available online, I mean, there's definitely a bunch of depth when it comes to the multi-country compared to some of the other solutions that we've seen, and that's pretty apparent to see. And the other thing that was really apparent, one of the places I've kind of learned by participating in these sessions is, taking a look at the case studies that they have. And it's very clear to see when you start to dig into the case studies, where this product is going to be a fit. We talked about it earlier, so no need to kind of rehash that, but it's very apparent as you're doing due diligence with these different products. If you start there and take a look to say, are these companies like my company? If there are, and there's a lot more of those user case reviews than, something else, like, for example, in manufacturing, in this particular instance, it's probably a solution to take a deeper look at.
Okay, I can take some more short comments and then we need to close, I guess.
It's very apparent how strong it is from a financial multi-company perspective and for project management. It's obviously very strong in both those areas.
Project management definitely stood out for me, and financial capability is something that SAP has been traditionally very strong about. Definitely lacks some core manufacturing operational modules like scheduling and things like that, but was a very helpful session for me. I absolutely enjoyed this.
All right, guys, so that's a wrap. And if you joined for the first time, this was part of our industry series, for which we meet every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. We pick one vendor or the solution. So make sure you are going to be here next week. We are going to be here with another vendor or the solution. On that note, Thanks, everybody, for your time and insights tonight.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.